Dear guests, we are now in the seventh session of our session. Now we are listening Jorge Rodríguez-SOTO and Fernando Sáenz-SEGURA, and their area is risks and opportunities of cooperatives serving small-scale economically vulnerable farmers in Costa Rica.
10 researchers from the National University of Costa Rica, we are going to present you a paper entitled Risks and Opportunities of Coffee Cooperatives Serving Small-Scale Economically Vulnerable Farmers in Costa Rica. First of all, I would like to begin by saying we are presenting from a video because Costa Rica is 9 hours behind Turkey, so it will be pretty difficult for us to be live with you. But we will leave our emails in the last slide. If you have any questions or inquiries, you can write us there. Okay. To give you an outline of the presentation, we're going to start by the research methodology or research design. Later, we're going to deepen within the theoretical framework with the main approaches we're going to use. And then we're going to present the empirical results. Okay. To begin with, this research is articulated as a multiple case study design following the positivist approach as presented by Jim. This means that it is of qualitative nature, even if we use some quantitative datasets within the analysis. For the generalization in this type of research, we need to have three categorical levels clear. Theoretical categories that appear from the theory, revision, and analysis, analytical categories that appear from the empirical phenomena, and a codification strategy that let us mediate between them and reach valid conclusions. In this case, we want to cover the whole case of Costa Rica for coffee production in Costa Rica. So we need to cover the main coffee regions of the country, the Western Central Valley, the Eastern Central Valley, the South region, and the North region. Currently, we are lacking in the Western Central Valley case. We are still in process of finding one, but we have the other three already processed and analyzed. With this, we're going to build a case for the cooperative production of coffee in Costa Rica to answer the question how coffee cooperatives in Costa Rica act as a resilience and competitiveness enhancers for small and medium-sized stakeholders. Okay, now going into the theoretical framework, we're going to begin from the broader categories to the more specific ones, starting with new institutional economics. The first thing to answer here is what are institutions? And differently from what we see in the colloquial meaning of the word, we're not talking about public organizations. We're talking about the rules of the game as it was proposed by North in his seminal definition. In this case, we understand institutions are the frames that shape the space for actions for individuals in order to reduce uncertainty and make social behavior predictable so that agents can coordinate collective actions more easily. There are other definitions. For example, here is one of Segelson and McCann's that define institutions as co-evolving sources of economic growth instead of constraints to it. For them, institutions are enablers for some economic activities, and at the same time, they can block others. When we deepen within both definitions, we will find that both are right. Institutions are constraints to some behaviors in order to enable collective results, and as such, they encompass an equilibrium between restrictiveness and constructiveness, meaning that they restrict in order to enable. So in that sense, they frame development configurations and options, not only growth, but the opportunities and options people have to develop their lives. Now, institutions tend to be more rigid in the short term. So we need to reach a second level of analysis that is more close to collective action, which is governance. When we think of governance, we're thinking about the operational specificities by which groups steer through institutional arrays. This is how they organize their collective actions within an institutional matrix to achieve a common goal. For the case we're treating, that is cooperatives, we need to understand collaborative governance. That is a form of governance that is not the regular state governance or the private bureaucratic governance, but it's a governance form that appear when several agents join their limited resources to achieve collective results that would be out of reach for each of them. Within these collaborative governance forms, people create networks. And these networks lay their foundations mostly on personal connections like structural equivalence and trust, which makes them a highly malleable form of governance as they are less structured, so they are useful in situations of high uncertainty. At the same time, these this based on structural equivalence trust in personal collections creates some trouble for them when thinking about the long term. But in general, these forms tend to be viable in the face of conditions like poverty, harsh conditions in general, when market allocate structural equivalent peers together in high uncertainty or in the face of threats. Now, the last concept we need to abord here is productive reconversion and competitiveness. For this, the global value change approach is pretty useful, as it allows us to examine the endogenous and endogenous elements of competitiveness with the opportunities and risks for a firm from them. One of the main contributions of these frames is that it allows us to contextualize the firm in a specific system of interactions, institutions, clients, suppliers, and actors in general, which is called a value system. Of course, the value systems and the value chains are dynamic and in continual evolution with conjunctural variables and changes. Consequently, the opportunities and competitive advantage of firms reshapes well. So stakeholders, in order to cope with these transformative processes, need to enter processes of productive reconversion, which are the process by which they adapt and transform their processes within a value system. Now, to start with the results. In the case of Costa Rica, when we talk about cooperatives, we find these numbers at a macro level. The charts on the left show us the economic flows of the agro-industrial cooperative front in millions of dollars. The other one, the one that is below, shows the quantity of members and jobs provided by this front. You can see there is a lot. And given an overview of the situation, we have 594 cooperatives in Costa Rica with more than 800,000 affiliate members, which are around 21% of the total population of the country. At the same time, they are present across all sectors of the national economy and territories. And cooperatives operating in international markets produce 132 million colones, which is the national currency. Now I will leave you with my colleague Fernando Sáenz for the rest of the results.
Thank you. Next slide. Okay. I would like to start by saying something about the institutional setting of how the coffee sector is organized in Costa Rica. Costa Rica, we have cooperatives, coffee cooperatives, but also we have large corporations, we have small micro benefits of coffee and medium-sized enterprises as well. And a large group of farmers ranging from large-scale farmers, which are the few ones actually, and a larger group of smallholders. All of these actors are ruled by one single institute, which is the YILDIRIM. YILDIRIM is our Institute of Coffee. It's a hybrid organization created by law in 1933. It's a very important actor because it rules the coffee sector. It sets the price regulation. It's a regulator, especially define the type of price we're going to pay every year to coffee producers, provides with production support, and also technology and innovation. Research and technology is also a very important task. So it's a multitask organization. Of course, as any organization faces criticism by several small producers, claiming that they are less favored by the type of services the YILDIRIM provides. But this is a very unique organization. You can hardly find it in any other coffee producing country. Next slide, please. Okay. More or less around 1993, 94, there was a big change in the how the coffee were internationally traded and sold around the world. So the famous coffee agreement disappeared, and the market became more open to deal with large groups of buyers and large group of producers. So the coffee became, let's say, liberal commodity, which meant a very very drawback for small countries like Costa Rica. So by the beginning of the 21st century, more or less, the coffee business, the roasting coffee business, was controlled by very few multinationals. So a small country like Costa Rica, we couldn't have a real effect on the international price. So small countries like Costa Rica, Mexico even, the window of opportunity became in the specialty market or the niche market type. Could be specialty coffee, could be coffee sold by certain characteristics. So everything, all oriented in quality more than volume. So we started progressively getting out of the commodity market of coffee. So cooperatives needed to invent themselves to take advantage of this market opportunity and progressively leaving out from the commodity market. Next slide. So I'm going to I'm going to go very quickly to this because it's the most important thing is that besides this change in the supply chain and focusing on niche market, certification became very important for cooperatives. Certification like organic coffee or fair trade or shade coffees or control of deforestation certification, any certification that control the designation of origin, for instance, or specialty coffee became very important for cooperatives. More recently, the famous specialty coffees and the micro lot coffees are getting attention. So for doing this kind of challenge, cooperatives again must to invent themselves. Next slide. So the next slide, because this is about quality of so about the specialty coffee. So we took 3 of our case studies: Cope Tarrazú, which is the largest coffee cooperative and the largest cooperative in general in Costa Rica. Cope Pilangosta, small cooperatives in the northern part, and Cope Libertad is a cooperative, medium-sized cooperative working in the western central valley of Costa Rica. So what we took a deep interview with managers, and from this interview we create these workflows, which are the most important and clue words in the interview. So for Cooperative, the largest cooperative in Costa Rica and the largest coffee cooperative, what matters? Okay, what matters is they focus very much on their producers, on their members, and they focus very much on the organization itself, but the organization in terms of the producers. So production for them is very important because as the largest cooperative, they produce a lot and they can impact the niche market with more strength than other actors. So they are very international oriented and they use certification, but for them it's not really that important. So they provide their producers with, or the producing members with several services, very important. And not only the famous delivery point, but also services in inputs, in agronomic inputs, but also in providing credit. Next slide. Cope Pilangosta is a smaller one. It's a very small cooperative compared with the previous one, but they focus very much on having a strong organization. So organization is quite important. And they, of course, they rely very much on certification. They produce less, so they sell their coffee other certifications for looking for a premium price. And these certifications must to pass through a strong organization. They sell very much the idea of the coffee is sustainable or is produced in harmony with the nature conservation, because it's a cooperative, very tourist oriented as well. Next slide. The last cooperative is Coopelibertad. They operate in Central Valley, especially in the western part. So they are a medium-sized cooperative, and they focus very much in their producers. So for them, it's quite important to have the producing members board on the cooperative. This cooperative must to face urban sprawl, endangering the producers also. They keeping the producers active with them is very important. They focus very much on quality and provide their members with good prices. So this is important certification. They use certification, but not as much as Copepilangosta did or does. They have a large group of producers, and they try to keep them active and produce. I'm going to pass the word to my friend, to my colleague, for finishing this presentation.
Okay, thank you. For conclusions, what we found is that as a collective action device, cooperatives have graded. For example, in seeking product differentiation and diversification through certifications and specialty markets, as Fernando was saying, for providing more and new services to members. For example, cooperatives have a lot of support in innovation and other services to diversify their sales. For keeping members through better prices and assistance that they could get alone. For coffee quality and environmental certifications, which matter to obtain price premiums. And in crisis times, cooperatives have become safety nets in the rural communities in which they operate. Now, not everything is good. We found some major dangers they face as well. For example, some opportunistic behaviors on part of some members of the cooperative, which is a great risk for it. As I was mentioning earlier, this is a form of governance that depends on trust and collaboration, which is completely voluntarily. So opportunistic behavior is a threat for the organization. Other risks are coffee multinationals that are buying directly to the members without going through the cooperative, so it can weaken the organization in the long run. And generational change of members, as young generations tend to depart from the agricultural production and look for other type of activities or migrate to urban areas. So that would be it. Thank you very much for your attention. And here are our emails in case you have any inquire of question. We would be glad to answer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is very good and interesting area. And then now we are going to listen Professor Dr. Priya Solomon, her presentation. The term is yours.
Thank you, ma'am. Is the screen available?
Yes, we are seeing.
And I'm audible, right? Just a minute. I'll put it on the screen, full slideshow. So I will be good. It's good afternoon again. I think so. It's good afternoon there, and it's good evening in India. So, anyways, it's a good day for all of us, and a very nice day to meet all of you digitally on this platform. So I will be speaking on e-governance to just governance. That is recalibrating digital democracy for equity and accountability. This paper is jointly written with Dr. Seda and myself, and we would be talking about transforming digital systems from being just mere efficiency tools to ethical frameworks that empower all citizens and give them a sound, safe digital future which they can once their feedbacks. So we are moving from beyond efficiency to ethical frameworks where justice becomes imperative. So we are talking of the paradigm shift of traditional e-governance to just being a system which drives service delivery, which hastens administrative speed of service delivery, focuses on transaction efficiency and only building up digital infrastructure. Today we talk of just governance. The shift has come because we're talking in terms of the AI integration, the data framework and the data biases which have crept in along with the AI integration into the technological systems which govern the e-governance systems. We are talking today of algorithmic accountability, digital equity, and participatory design. We need to think in terms of transparency, inclusivity, and accountability, which is ethical. So we are talking today of normative frameworks, not just architectural frameworks. We are designing our frameworks of governance in such a way that we move away from efficiency to ethical frameworks. So we are talking in terms of the steady evolution of e-governance, bridging the gap between the limited ethical consideration in AI integration, which happened a few decades back, to today, where we are transforming the existing e-governance system into ethical governance frameworks, where we talk of fair, transparent, accountable AI-driven governance frameworks. So we are talking mainly and majorly of three pillars of just governance: data justice, procedural justice, and distributive justice. We are talking in terms of representative data collection, which represents the marginalized, underserved populations, which can give voice to their opinions and protect their rights. We are talking of procedural justice. We are talking of transparency, accountability in decision-making. Citizens understanding the criteria on which decisions are digitally made. They are understanding the algorithmic processes, and the clarity and transparency is available to them. All information is available to them to understand the processes through which the cases and circumstances have been dealt with digitally. In terms of distributive justice, we are talking of reducing structural disparities. Of course, it is building on infrastructure, digital infrastructure, making the distribution of digital resources more equitable, especially focusing on the underserved communities. So therefore, when we talk of data in practice, giving equity, providing data equity for all, there's inclusivity, there's transparency in handling of that data. We are talking of representative data collection. We are talking of algorithmic accountability, algorithms which can be scrutinized, which can be verified by external bodies. Internally, they should be audited before deployment so that there are no biases involved and there is fairness and everybody understands when the circumstances through which the cases are dealt with when going through a procedural process. Citizen data empowerment is very, very important today. We need to empower our citizens to make them feel secure that the data is safe, and they have full rights to privacy and security, and they have the right to challenge decisions which are based on misrepresentation data, which they have not revealed or which they have not permitted to be shared with others. When we talk of procedural justice, we're talking of building trust through openness. Citizens need to understand how digital decisions are made. Therefore, the clear key components here become clear documentation of decision-making processes, open as access, as I said, to the logic behind those algorithmic processes and criteria, the meaningful channels available to them to voice their opinions and to have an impact on the systems which are evolving. The feedback mechanism should be strong. There should be public reporting on the impact of these systems when they are put in place for digital governance. When we talk of distributive, the third pillar of justice, we are talking of the bridging the digital divide. Now, this means not only providing the direct resources and the technological advances, making them available to the marginalized communities, but also talking in terms of the skill gaps. Because if we do not fill that gap, even though the digital infrastructure may be made available to all, they will fail to navigate those systems effectively and confidently. Now, universal access infrastructure is becoming very, very important of this digital technological transformation which is taking place. This could be done through expanding internet connectivity to community Wi-Fi projects, subsidized services, national policies in reaching these marginalized and remote areas. Now, countries like Kenya and South Korea already have national policies which are enhancing internet access across all demographics in their countries. So it is very important to bridge the divide if we want to move from the system of e-governance to just governance, and making just governance the integral part of this digital democracy, which is here to stay in the future generations to come, which means expanding broadband access, providing affordable devices, offering digital literacy. Some cases which are of importance and which have been leaders in digital democracy. One is Estonia, which has the secure digital ID system, which enables every person, every citizen to track how government uses their personal data. This enables them to have full access to the voting, healthcare, and business registration facilities. They have inclusive training programs, which are government-sponsored initiatives, which are helping them to become familiar with digital technology, ensuring demographic diversity in this digital participation. Then we have participatory governance models, which has become a role model for other countries to follow, where seamless technology integration has taken place, which has bridged the gaps between public officials and the citizens, the civilians, with high voter turnout, because they no need have to go to the election booths to do their voting. So the physical barriers have totally been removed, and democratic participation has become very easy for them. India too has its own story to tell of digital inclusion. The Indian subcontinent launched in 2015 its ambitious program of empowering citizens through technology. It opened common service centers in rural areas which provide all kinds of government service online to the rural folk who are not technologically savvy, who do not understand how to operate these systems, such as banking services, healthcare services. All these are provided to them at these common service centers. Then we have the mobile first approach, which many state governments have adopted. They have developed and they are providing mobile apps for healthcare, education, and grievance redressal, featuring online registration, complaint tracking, and service monitoring. Now, what are the proposals, therefore, for just governance in future? One needs to first and foremost create inclusive platforms which are catering to all kinds of demographics, with demographics, all regions, having different languages, having different cultures, and therefore having flexible design principles. We need to invest heavily on digital literacy, which means making technology available, not only available, but usable by the underrepresented communities, and therefore promoting greater engagement in governance processes. We need to enhance our feedback mechanisms, make them more robust, so that the authentic needs and concerns of all populations are met on time. Then we need to build ethical frameworks frameworks which are grounded in human rights and inclusive access frameworks from the very start. So therefore, we are moving away from the algorithmic challenges which were faced when the e-governance framework started evolving and integrating with the AI. Three challenges were of major concern: algorithmic opacity, data bias, and digital exclusion. And now, as we integrate and promote digital inclusion, mitigate data bias, address algorithmic opacity, we move to just algorithmic governance, which means fairness, equity based on human rights, accountability of algorithmic processes can be achieved. Therefore, the path forward is very clear. We are moving away from systems which were just governance systems and frameworks which were just electronic service providers to more being equitable facilitators of demographic participation and trust.
You have 2 minutes.
So therefore,
okay, 2 minutes.
Therefore, this recalibration prioritizes all stakeholders' needs, whether it is the public officials or the citizens of the country, whether it is the affluent or the marginalized or the underserved, and therefore it enhances meaningful citizen engagement and paves the way for a more just digital future for all of us. I would like my co-author, Seda, to sum up in 2 lines. Professor Seda,
Yes.
over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Professor Seda
and Seda Yıldırım.
My co-author.
Yes, I am here, yes.
Could you just sum up and then we can end it?
Yes, based on the digital age, everything is changed into digitalization and also smart technology and AI. So the future seems to be more digitalized life for all of us. And thanks for your collaboration and contribution, Professor Dr. Priya Solomon.
Thank you,
So
Professor
it's
Seda.
limited Zoom meeting, so I try to short speech here. I think Professor Seda Bostancı will give us an abstract speech here. So thanks for your again.
Thank you. Over to Seda Bostancı.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. We are very happy as being for you as our also keynote speaker. Thank you. And now I will in the 8th part. Also, I have 2 presentations, and then we make discussions. But before closing this part, I have a presentation about the governance in the digital economy, challenges and strategies. This is a small also area. So in the abstract presentation, I will make the abstract presentation. In this part, I can define, we make this study together with Professor Dr. Cristina Raluca POPESCU and Professor Dr. Jos Popescu. Thank all of them for their collaborations. Just governance in the digital transformation era refers to how governments have to adapt their structures, strategies, and practicals in order to become more efficient, inclusive, and transparent while using digital technologies, tools, and instruments. Moreover, this new approach involves shifting from top-down and centralized model to one that is collaborative and student-centered, hence prioritizing the use of digital tools to engage with individuals, share data, information, and improve service delivery. The current research paper focused on highlighting the way in which a balance can be created accountably and trust through updated governance framework and the new strategies that characterize the citizen-centered approach. Also, key principles and characteristics of just governance are presented in key excellent new models, engagements in comparative citizens into decision-making processes. So the case studies also in this study will be shared in our also work. And now, after the last session, I will present together with Professor Dr. Seda Bostancı and Seda Yıldırım, together our presentation is about the Global Hunger Index and food security trends. And my other presentation is about the comparative study on e-government indexes in the digital era. Thank you all of your contributions and also the time is very past, but also thank you dear Priya Solomon, Seda Yıldırım, Vesna, Işıl Demirtaş, Burcu İnci, İdris Akkuzu. You are still here with us and see you in the last session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you.